This is Dr. Michael Greger coming to you live to answer any questions you may have, as I do every month. For those unfamiliar with my work, every year I read through every issue of every English language nutrition journal in the world. So busy folks like you don't have to. I then compile the most interesting, most groundbreaking, most practical findings into new videos and articles uploaded nearly every day to my nonprofit site, NutritionFacts.org. Everything on the website is free, no ads, no corporate sponsorships, strictly non-commercial, not selling anything. Just put it up as a public service, as a labor of love, as a tribute to my grandmother, whose own life was saved with evidence-based nutrition. All right, lots of questions already in the queue. Pro tip: if you want to absolutely guarantee you get your question answered, go on to any of these platforms is streaming on like a half hour before. Type your question in, and you'll be in the first in the queue. But by the time the Q&A starts going, questions start flooding in. There's hundreds of questions, and you can ask questions anytime, but I'll probably never get to them. Okay, so here are some of the questions that were asked like an hour ago. From Marhi, considering my poor diet growing up and well into adulthood, as well as medical procedures and antibiotics, pretty much sure I ruined my gut bacteria. How can I diversify my gut bacteria without FMT, fecal microbial transplant? Do not eat feces. All you have to do is feed your good gut bugs. The good gut bugs you do have, the stragglers that have survived, you can feed them with prebiotics, which are dietary fiber and resistant starch, by eating whole plant foods, particularly the drier plant foods, such as whole grains, particularly whole grain kernels, known as groats, barley groats, rye groats, oat groats, as well as legumes, beans, split peas, chickpeas, and lentils. And then eat a variety of foods. There's a 50 food challenge, because fiber is actually a catch-all term for literally thousands of different types of indigestible carbohydrates. And they each may feed a different class of good gut bugs, those fiber feeders that have such beneficial effects in our gut, not only for gut health, but because they create these so-called postbiotics like butyrate, acetate, propionate. They get absorbed through the colon wall into our bloodstream, circulate through our body, even cross the blood-brain barrier, and have all sorts of anti-inflammatory effects and immune boosting effects and all sorts of beneficial things. And so eat lots of different types of plant foods, 50 different plant foods a week was one suggestion. But just make sure you eat lots of whole grain kernels, ideally, and legumes. Next up, a man of constant sorrow. That sounds bad. What apart from garlic is best food to boost our immune system? I have a whole chapter on preserving immune function in How Not to Age. What can we do to improve our immune function? Weight loss for those with excess body fat improves immune function, as can exercise alone. Can improve vaccine efficacy and reduce the risk of getting upper respiratory tract infections. Forest bathing, I have some videos about that, how it boosts your natural killer cells walking in a forest. And does it have to be a forest? Can you just walk anywhere? No, it has to be a forest, actually, because it's the compounds that are created by trees. It's such a cool story. Check it out. Get enough sleep. Sleep deprivation weakens your immunity, makes us significantly more susceptible to infection, decreases vaccine efficacy. But you asked about foods. What can we do about foods? Increasing fruit and vegetable intake. Randomizing people to boost their food and vegetable intake can significantly boost the efficacy of pneumonia vaccination in older men and women, which everyone should get starting at age 65, I believe. Whereas you take people randomized to restrict their fruit and vegetable intake, and you can actually impair immune function within a matter of weeks. In terms of specific foods, kiwi fruit consumption can lessen the symptoms of a common cold, but echinacea and elderberry you hear about, not convincing evidence, whereas blueberries, black raspberries, and goji berries have all been shown to reduce viral loads, improve immune parameters in terms of improving viral loads and virus-induced inflammation. Cruciferous vegetables like broccoli can do that. And then nitrate-rich vegetables, which are the greens and beets, can also boost immune function, vaccine efficacy. Sea vegetables like wakame, which is like the seaweed salad sea vegetable, I'm trying to think what else. Oh, nutritional yeast, green tea, and I talked about prebiotics in the last question. Talked about garlic, mushrooms as well. In fact, kids were randomized like 3/4 a cup a day of just plain white button mushrooms. Had significantly reduced, I think, asthma exacerbations. For some reason that had something to do with infections, though. There's some tie-in, or maybe it was like kids with asthma getting upper respiratory tract infections. And plant-based eating in general, right? Those that were eating plant-based significantly lower COVID infection rates and severity. Not just because of comorbidities like, they're less obesity and diabetes and stuff, but even controlling for all that still saw a significant boost. Chlorella may reduce vitamin C, hepatitis C virus liver inflammation. I do have some caveats on chlorella, though. I have some new videos coming out about that. Asian ginseng can reduce risk of developing acute upper respiratory tract infections, and chronic vitamin C supplementation can reduce common cold severity, but does not reduce the frequency of common colds and may have the potential for adverse side effects, including kidney stones. Immune system effects of vitamin E and multivitamin supplements are mixed, but I don't encourage vitamin E supplementation as it raises prostate cancer risk, and both vitamin E and beta carotene supplements appear to slightly increase overall mortality, which is not a good thing. A short-term course of zinc, if taken correctly, can decrease the severity of common cold symptoms, and 'tis the season. Especially for older adults, flu shots can reduce the risk of not only getting the flu, but the subsequent cardiovascular events that you put at increased risk of after a flu infection. And older adults should get vaccinated against shingles at age 50, and as I mentioned, pneumonia age 65. Those are the takeaways from the immune chapter in How Not to Age. Next up, can I please provide video, research, or blog? Oh, LDL-P. My GP said that no one in his practice has had a heart attack if their LDL-P is 600 or under. Okay, well, it doesn't matter what your particular doctor personal experience is. That's how we used to know medicine, right? Where before there was research, it was just like, well, there's the doctor's experience. It's like a little country town doc be like, oh, well, last time, this happened, this was whatever. Okay, we don't need to do that anymore because we have a research community pumping out thousands of articles a day. So LDL-P is LDL particle number, one of the many new fancy lipid indicators. Why are there all sorts of fancy lipid indicators? Because LDL is so cheap to measure. It's actually estimated from just a simple lipid panel. No one makes any money off of it, essentially. So we need fancy new markers that we can charge insurance for and blah, blah, blah. But nothing has been shown better than LDL overall. So it used to be kind of total cholesterol that's been moved out for LDL cholesterol. That is one number you can know about your entire life. Is it blood pressure? Is it blah, blah, blah? No, LDL cholesterol. In terms of modifiable risk factors, knowing your age is important, but not much you can do about it. LDL cholesterol is single most important driver of the number one killer, is atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease. And so that's the number we need to know. And the single most important thing we need to know about a food too. If you could know one thing about the food, it'd be like, oh, how much vitamin C does it have, or how much whatever. Well, if the number one killer in the world was scurvy, then that is really the most important thing we want to know about a food. Does it have vitamin C or not, right? Or how much vitamin C? Okay, but if the number one killer is heart disease, then there's really one thing we need to know about the food. Does it increase LDL or does it decrease LDL? Since it's the single most important thing, the number one thing that's going to kill you and your friends and family, most likely. So that's what we want to know about a diet and about lifestyle factors in general. What does it do to LDL? Not LDL-P, which can be used to measure what's called residual risk, meaning like you're on cholesterol lowering therapies, like you're on drugs, and like you have another heart attack, and you're like, wait a second, why am I having a heart attack when I've kind of maxed out these drugs? Well, there's all sorts of other things you can measure to see if there's other things we can do. But basically, what the same lifestyle behaviors that would drop LDL-P would drop LDL, so just drop your LDL. By cutting down your intake of trans fats, saturated fats, dietary cholesterol, increase your intake of fiber-rich foods. Next up, Ellen says, if I intended to eat a lot of berries and 2 ounces of cut white mushrooms in the same meal, how long to microwave the mushrooms to destroy the PPO? Should they be watered a bit or dry? Oh, okay. This is interesting. This is high-level question. I love high-level. I love any kind of question, but it's fun to talk about high-level questions. Because sometimes I feel like I go through the same basic information. People are like, yeah, duh. All right. But this is a little more interesting. Okay. So what this person is referring to is a webinar I did. Oh, and a series of videos. I think the videos are out on this enzyme found in bananas and white mushrooms and avocados. Basically anything that turns brown. That turning brown is polyphenol oxidase, which this enzyme that not only turns bananas brown but can eat up some of the polyphenol phytonutrients that we want in cocoa or berries or other things. And so maybe we don't want to put bananas in our smoothie, or do what I do, which is put freeze-dried bananas in, because you get the banana taste, but the freeze-drying process, because as you can see, it's not brown, kills off the enzyme. But as this questioner is saying, well, you can also kill off the enzyme by microwaving or by heating up. So heat kills the enzyme. Now you can eat. Now, certain mushrooms you can eat raw, like oyster mushrooms, right? It's only the agaricus mushrooms, the white mushrooms, the crimini mushrooms, portobello mushrooms, as well as shiitake mushrooms and morel mushrooms. You want to make sure all those are cooked. But oyster mushrooms you can eat raw. And so you don't necessarily need to cook it, but if you want to. So, if you want to destroy the enzyme, if you didn't eat a lot of berries, the same meal, how long do you microwave? Oh, so in the video, this is a lot getting around. That was just all the background. But in the video, didn't I say how many minutes to do the mushrooms? It wasn't a lot. I remember. I don't remember. After all that, I don't remember. But it's in the video, so just check out the video. And obviously you watched the video because you're asking this question. But if it's not in the video, and I'm sure it is, if you click under the video, sources cited, just click on the mushroom study that did and see how long they microwaved it for. But it wasn't that much. And you don't need to water your mushrooms when you microwave them. They have enough water in them. In fact, they'll turn into a puddle because it releases all that water. Anyway, so check out the video. We celebrate eating plants. Yes, we do. Best job search resources for supporting celebrating eating those plants. That's a good question. I don't know. Please reply to this person if anyone has been looking for a job and found some good resources. I seem to remember. Oh, but see, yeah, last time I was looking for a job was a very long time ago, and there were cool like job boards. I know there are. Yeah, I don't know what the job boards are these days. But all the ones I know, even I remember their names, they're probably all gone right now. So sorry, I do not know. But if you're interested in working at NutritionFacts.org, we don't have any current open positions, but our team is up to 20 now. We are hiring. It's actually not up yet, but we are hiring a graphic design assistant. Our poor graphic designer is overwhelmed. We're having her do so much stuff. And so she needs some help. So we're going to actually hire somebody. So we just put it in the budget. So we may actually not be hiring till next year because that's next year's budget. I don't know. But anyway, we just had the board meeting today and that was one of the items. So that's why I remember. So anyway, stay tuned. There's a little employment opportunities link in NutritionFacts.org. And beyond that, look, there's all sorts of wonderful organizations out there. American College of Lifestyle Medicine, I don't know if they're hiring. Plant Nutrition Project, I don't know if they're hiring. Colin Campbell has a Center for Nutrition Studies, I don't know if they're hiring. Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, I don't know if they're hiring. There's the Rochester Lifestyle Medicine Institute. I don't know, just go to you can go to the conferences. That's a great idea, right? Go to the ACLM conference, the Plant Nutrition conference, and just like mingle and be like, oh, what, I don't know. I'm sure there's listservs and stuff. You can go to your local like meetup groups that I don't know. Just ask around. Sorry, I don't know more concrete answers. Next up, Green Shingle Homestead. says, hello, Dr. G, sunglass emoji. Would a plant-based diet help with bronchiectasis 3 years post-COVID? That sucks. Yeah, so bronchiectasis is the problems with the your bronchi. We do know COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. By increasing fruit and vegetable consumption, you get significant improvement in lung function. That was, and it wasn't a lot of fruit and vegetables too. We think it's anti-inflammatory, antioxidant effects. So eating a lot of anti-inflammatory, antioxidant foods might be a good idea, but I don't think we've actually ever looked at it specifically for that condition. Not that I've run across. Although, check on PubMed and see what pops up. Ellen says, is freezer, refridge, or room temp best to store whole flax seeds, pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds for months at a time? Any negatives, time limits, or guidelines? Oh, okay. Well, a whole flax seeds in an airtight container can be stored at room temperature for months, no problem. However, walnuts I would put in the fridge or freezer. And the pumpkin seeds and sunflower seeds, I think you can keep out of the fridge. Although for months, I'm not sure. But unless you're buying in huge bulk, you should be eating these foods. So they shouldn't last that long. Months, I don't know. Okay, maybe put them in the fridge. I don't refrigerate my pumpkin seeds, but I go through them pretty quick. Oh, did I tell? I think it was the last Q&A where I talked about. Oh, now I got to remember the name. Syrian pumpkin seeds. If you just eat like regular pepitas, little, yummy light green pumpkin seeds, and you're like, these are delicious, you have no idea. You will never go back. There's something called Syrian pumpkin seeds, presumably made from different kind of pumpkin, different kind of squash. They are dark green, gorgeous, delicious. And you can buy them online. Oh, and you can buy them in stores too. First, I discovered them in Vancouver, where someone discovered them for me. And now I just never look back. They're awesome. And so I don't keep them in the fridge. If you think about them, these foods exist out in the sun all day, like they grow outside, room temperature, in the very least. But months may be a lot to ask. Next up, I would Alexander. I would donate. Whole flax seeds may not even need to be stored at room temperature. In an airtight container. Ground flax seeds need to be put in an airtight container, but still can be last room temperature for months. Not a problem. Okay, Alexander would like to donate plasma. Oh, that's nice. Oh, is this healthy or not? Does it mimic the effects of protein restriction since you do lose a lot of protein? Well, that is an exciting thought. I think, didn't Brian Johnson just basically do total plasmapheresis? Basically replaces all his plasma. So donating blood, actually, whole blood, can actually cut down on your iron stores, which is good in terms of reducing cancer risk. I've got videos about that. So they used to bleed people. Well, it's actually good for some conditions, ironically. But that's because you're getting rid of red blood cells. If you're just taking plasma, which is just kind of the fluid, then you wouldn't be cutting down on iron stores. You would be losing protein. Your body would have to pump it back out. But no, I would not. I don't know. I wonder if it would trigger some kind of stress response in the body, which might have some hormetic benefits. I do not know. So it might be good, might be bad. But it's certainly altruistic. People definitely need plasma. Deepak asks, I have 2 or 3 pistachios, 30 to 40 minutes before bedtime after watching a video about melatonin. Would having them every day cause dependency or some other negative long-term effects? No. Note, though, either a follow-up video or the doctor's note on that particular video, that the melatonin content of pistachios has been called into question. So basically not. So the original study has not been retracted, but there's just another study of pistachios that didn't show the same high levels. Now, it's possible, look, anytime you're looking at natural foods, it's a different crop. Maybe it's a different kind of pistachio. It's grown in a different part of the world. So it could be like totally different for a lot of different reasons. But it was such an extreme difference that basically the researchers in the second study basically wrote a note saying, we're skeptical about the first study. And it did seem to be an outlier, but as far as we know, I don't know, it may have been a fluke or bad testing or whatever. But certainly 2 or 3 pistachios is not going to hurt. And if it helps, great. And I wouldn't worry about dependency or anything like that. Okay, next up, Serenity. Aw, hello, Serenity. That's very sweet. Next up, Alberto. Should we eat all fruit tuber peels or none of them or all of them? What about potatoes, sweet potatoes? Okay. Great question, right? Okay. So we should eat fruit peels, not tuber peels. Why is the difference? Okay. So what the peel of a fruit is doing is protecting it from oxidation because it's exposed to the air, right? So here you have is an apple. And why doesn't, you cut an apple open and expose it to oxygen, it turns brown. And the reason why it doesn't turn brown is because there's a peel protecting it from the oxygen. The air can't get inside. Okay. And so the peel, what does the peel have? Lots of antioxidants. Protects against stuff that the oxygen is trying to get inside. But in the ground, there's no oxygen underground, and so the peels do not have these exaggerated levels of antioxidants compared to the inside. So in an apple, I forget what proportion of the phytonutrients are actually found in the peel, but it's huge compared to the flesh in terms of gram for gram. So you absolutely do not want to peel your apples. But like the carrot peel or sweet potato peel or anything does not have disproportionately more nutrients. I would not be surprised if it's disproportionately less. So you can peel anything underground. Don't peel things above ground. There's a few exceptions. Eggplant, you don't want to eat the peel. What's some other, melons, obviously not eating the rind. Anyway, there we go. What else we got? Tammy says, heart murmur, 62-year-old female, whole food plant by 6 years, BP, beautiful, 100/70. Systolic murmur is present. Specific grade, no first rub, no gout. How concerned should I be? You need to talk to a good cardiologist who really needs to listen to it and find out what's going on. I love your blood pressure though, but yeah, you really need to. You need someone with a good stethoscope to sit there on your chest and listen. Ellen says, do I consider pasteurized walnuts, pumpkin seeds, and flower seeds raw? Is pasteurized safer for bacteria pathogens? I didn't even know they pasteurized walnuts, pumpkins, and sunflower seeds. Some kind of heat treatment to kill off bacteria. It's fine with me either way. Right, as long as it's not I presume it doesn't hit kind of roasting temperatures where you get AGE concentration. It certainly wouldn't, unless they kind of taste roasted, then probably not creating those compounds. So I wouldn't worry either way. And presumably they're pasteurizing them for a reason. Although, walnuts should not have any bacterial contamination because they're inside this nice shell. And so only if you kind of, treated them very poorly afterwards would you need to have that extra step. Okay, Patrick says, how long should you wait to work out after a big meal or a small meal? Well, so I have a bunch of videos on exercise and meal timing. And for diabetics, you would want to actually exercise after the meal. And for everybody else, exercise before the meal, but after the meal helps reduce the blood sugar spike in diabetics. So even like going to walk after meal, in fact, every single meal would actually be ideal. But particularly evening meal because of chronobiology. Mark says, the benefits of cooking carrots and tomatoes decrease when they cool down. No, the benefits of cooking carrots and tomatoes actually improves the bioavailability of beta carotene and lycopene respectively. And it has to do with the change in the change in the food matrix such that you can eat them hot or cold and you get the same additional benefits. Do I agree with the late Dr. McDougall? How sad that there's the late in front of it. Dr. Rule's recommendations for amino acids, even though the RDA for methionine appears to be several times higher than his recommendation for methionine. No, we want to. I encourage people to hit the RDA, but we just want to not. But methionine is the amino acid that we are targeting for restriction, but by restriction we mean restricted down to recommended intakes, not lower, unless there's some circumstances. Certain cancers are very susceptible to methionine restriction, but that would be the only circumstances with a practitioner to dip below that. My 360 bike says, is there any way to stop nodules and thyroid from getting bigger and possibly getting rid of them? Thyroid levels are okay. Lots of people have thyroid nodules, and it's a matter of, you're doing testing, making sure that they're not, carcinomatous. There are in terms of what can do to keep kind of benign thyroid nodules from getting bigger. Certainly preventing goiter, preventing the enlargement of the thyroid gland in general, is preventing iodine deficiency, and the best sources of iodine, the healthy sources of iodine, are sea vegetables, although iodine, depending on the soils, are available in a variety of plant foods. Most people get it from iodized salt, but not a good idea because excess sodium intake is such a leading killer risk factor. But in terms of individual nodules, I don't know if there's any kind of dietary fixes that I've run across, although I don't think I've ever actually looked. Brian says, so much conflicted information. You are confused. I'm sure lots of people are confused. Is whole fruit something that needs to be consumed in moderate? Oh, God, no. God, no. So the question is whole fruit something that needs to be eaten in moderation because all the fructose, when working on non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, has actually been looked at. I did a video about it where they had people eat something. This is the Jenkins lab at the University of Toronto. Had like 20 servings of fruit a day, if I remember. Basically, they gave people enough fructose in the form of whole fruit that it was like drinking liters of Coke a day. And so you assume, oh my God, liver fat would get worse. So would blood pressure and triglycerides. Nope, everything got better. So more fruit, the better. So you randomize people, diabetics, for example, worried about their blood sugars, to eat more fruit or less fruit. Who gets better in terms of long-term blood sugar control? Those who eat more fruit. Eat more fruit. We were designed to eat fruit. Fruit is good for us. Go crazy. Poor man of constant sorrow. I'm sad every time I look at your name. How accurate are alternative methods for colonoscopy? Well, there's 5, if I remember correctly, 5 validated, meaning accepted by the USPSTF, the United Services Preventive Task Force, in terms of what we can do for screening. 6 acceptable screening strategies, half of which are non-invasive, all of which are considered perfectly fine alternatives. So if by alternative methods you mean the 3 methods that have been accepted by the USPSTF, such as stool screening at certain intervals, then those are perfectly fine. But if by alternative methods you're like, going to a witch doctor or something, I would recommend against that. So stick to the 6, and I list them all and talk about the pros and cons of each in How Not to Age in the Preserving Your Bowel Function chapter number 2. I think it came after bladder. I think it really was chapter number 2 in that section. Anyway, oh my God, I got 1 minute left. Is there some super quick question? Normally I don't look at the questions before I click on them, but actually there is something I want to do instead. Happy birthday to me. It's my birthday month and we're doing a fundraiser. If you want to support my work, that's the present I want, is supporting the good things I'm able to do in the world. I'm just so privileged and feel so happy to be able to do this work. And so if you want to support it, you can go to c.nf/happy52. That's see.nf/happy52. And the kind of free thing we're giving away with signing up for the free email newsletter and Nutrition Facts is my purple sweet potato longevity smoothie recipe and how not to age. If you have the book, you already have the recipe. But If you don't have it yet, you can sign up at NutritionFacts.org/subscribe. And one of the reasons you want to subscribe is I have a new Ozempic webinar coming out next month. 3-hour webinar. Oh my God, so much juicy material. How much time do I need to talk? Well, there's all sorts of really interesting nuance, and oh my God. Anyway, in fact, I even turned into a book. It's about 100 pages, available on softcover, audiobook, ebook, everything you ever want to know about these class of GLP-1 injectable weight loss drugs. The book will be out by the end of this month. Webinar will be next month. You can find out all about it. In fact, next month for a save the date. I believe it is November 15th. Save the date. Find out more and register by subscribing to NutritionFacts.org. Thank you so much, everybody. Talk to you next month.